Tensions in the Middle East are once again reaching a critical boiling point. The United States Air Force has launched massive strike readiness drills across the region, sending a clear message of military preparedness, while Iran warns that any attack on its territory will be treated as an all-out war. U.S. aircraft carriers are moving into strategic positions, Allied bases are on high alert, and regional powers are carefully choosing sides. This is not just another military exercise. It comes amid escalating nuclear tensions, recent airstrikes on Iranian facilities, and growing fears of a wider conflict that could reshape global security and energy markets. So what exactly is happening behind the scenes? Are these drills meant to deter Iran, or are they a sign that a major confrontation is approaching? Today, we break down the facts, the military moves, and what could come next. In late January, the Middle East once again became the center of global attention as the United States Air Force launched massive multi-day strike readiness drills across the region. These exercises are not routine operations. They are designed to test how quickly American forces can mobilize, deploy across multiple bases, and operate in a high-threat environment. U.S. military officials described the drills as a way to ensure combat readiness and rapid response capabilities, especially at a time when tensions with Iran are at their highest levels in years. Fighter jets, support aircraft, and logistical units were moved across strategic locations under the command of U.S. Central Command. The goal is to demonstrate flexibility, speed, and coordination with Allied forces stationed throughout the Middle East. While American officials insist these drills are defensive in nature, the timing has raised serious concerns among analysts and regional leaders. At the same time, the U.S. Navy deployed the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group into the region. This includes advanced warships, guided missile destroyers, and dozens of combat aircraft capable of launching precision strikes. Aircraft carriers are among the most powerful military assets in the world, allowing the United States to project force without relying on foreign bases. The arrival of this carrier group significantly boosts American military presence in the Middle East. It sends a clear message of deterrence to Iran and any allied forces that may consider challenging U.S. interests. Military experts note that such deployments are rarely symbolic. They are carefully calculated moves meant to signal readiness for possible escalation if the situation demands. Alongside naval power, the United States has strengthened its missile defense systems across the region. Patriot and THAAD missile batteries have been positioned to protect American bases and Allied territories from potential missile or drone attacks. These systems are designed to intercept ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and aerial threats before they reach their targets. This layered defense approach suggests that Washington is preparing for a wide range of scenarios, from limited skirmishes to potential large-scale conflict. The buildup reflects serious concern within U.S. military leadership about Iran's capabilities and intentions. Iran, meanwhile, has responded with strong warnings. A senior Iranian official made it clear that any military strike against Iranian territory would be considered an act of all-out war. According to Tehran, there would be no such thing as a limited or surgical attack. Any aggression would be met with full-scale retaliation. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps echoed this stance, declaring that its forces are fully prepared and on high alert. The commander of the Guard stated that Iran's military is more ready than ever to respond to threats. This rhetoric is not new, but the timing and intensity reflect growing alarm in Tehran over U.S. movements in the region. For Iran, the presence of American carriers and large-scale drills is seen as a direct threat. Iranian leaders believe such actions could be preparations for future strikes, especially in light of previous attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities. The current tensions cannot be understood without looking at the broader historical backdrop. For decades, relations between the United States and Iran have been marked by hostility, sanctions, proxy conflicts, and failed diplomatic efforts. The collapse of nuclear agreements and renewed economic pressure campaigns have only deepened mistrust. In recent years, Iran has faced heavy U.S. sanctions targeting its oil exports, financial institutions, and key individuals within its government. These sanctions have severely impacted Iran's economy, contributing to inflation, unemployment, and public unrest. In response, Iran has continued developing its missile programs, strengthening its regional influence through allied groups, and expanding its defensive positions along the Persian Gulf. One of Iran's key strategic advantages is its geographical control near the Strait of Hormuz, a critical shipping route through which a large portion of the world's oil supply passes. Any conflict in this area could disrupt global energy markets almost immediately. Iran has also fortified islands in the Gulf with missile systems and naval units capable of challenging larger warships. Fast attack boats, drones, and anti-ship missiles form part of Tehran's strategy to counter U.S. naval dominance. These asymmetric tactics are designed to make any military confrontation costly for a technologically superior opponent. Meanwhile, the region's neighboring countries are watching developments with growing concern. Several Gulf states, traditionally aligned with the United States, have quietly expressed reluctance to become directly involved in any potential conflict. Some governments have even stated that they would not allow their airspace to be used for attacks on Iran. This signals a desire to avoid being dragged into a wider war that could devastate regional stability and economic recovery. Middle Eastern economies, heavily dependent on energy exports and trade, are particularly vulnerable to conflict. Even limited hostilities could disrupt oil production, shipping routes, and foreign investment. European nations and international organizations have urged restraint, emphasizing diplomacy over military confrontation. Many fear that another major conflict in the Middle East could create humanitarian crises, refugee flows, and long-term instability. Inside Iran itself, the government is facing serious domestic pressure. Over the past year, widespread protests have erupted across the country, driven by economic hardship, inflation, and frustration with political leadership. Security forces have responded with force, resulting in thousands of arrests and reported casualties. The Iranian government has defended its actions as necessary to maintain order, while international groups have condemned the crackdown. These internal struggles add another layer of complexity to Iran's external posture. Leaders in Tehran may feel compelled to project strength abroad to maintain authority at home. Public displays of military power, including propaganda murals and strong rhetoric against the United States, are part of this strategy. They aim to rally nationalist sentiment and discourage dissent by framing Iran as under threat from foreign enemies. On the American side, officials continue to state that they prefer diplomatic solutions. Senior U.S. leaders have said Washington remains open to dialogue if Iran is willing to engage under certain conditions. However, they have also emphasized that the United States will defend its interests and allies in the region. This dual approach of pressure and diplomacy has defined U.S. policy toward Iran for years. Sanctions, military presence, and readiness drills are meant to force Iran to negotiate, while diplomatic channels remain available. Critics argue that this strategy risks provoking the very conflict it seeks to avoid. Military analysts warn that large-scale drills, while defensive in purpose, can be misinterpreted by opponents as preparations for attack. This increases the risk of miscalculation. History has shown that wars often begin not by deliberate choice, but by misunderstandings, escalations, and reactions to perceived threats. The current situation reflects a classic security dilemma. The United States increases its military presence to deter Iran. Iran responds by raising its alert level and strengthening defenses. Each side views its actions as defensive, while interpreting the other's moves as aggressive. This cycle continues, raising tensions higher with each step. Global markets are already reacting to the uncertainty. Oil prices tend to rise whenever conflict risk increases in the Middle East. Investors fear disruptions to supply routes and production facilities. Higher energy prices affect inflation worldwide, impacting consumers in Europe, North America, and beyond. This is why events unfolding thousands of miles away have real consequences for people across the globe. The massive U.S. drills serve multiple purposes. They test military readiness, reassure allies, and signal deterrence to Iran. But they also send a message that the United States is prepared for rapid escalation if necessary. Whether these drills remain purely defensive or become a prelude to real conflict depends on political decisions in Washington and Tehran. For now, both sides continue to walk a dangerous line between deterrence and confrontation. Tensions in the Middle East are once again reaching a critical boiling point. The United States Air Force has launched massive strike readiness drills across the region, sending a clear message of military preparedness, while Iran warns that any attack on its territory will be treated as an all-out war. U.S. aircraft carriers are moving into strategic positions, Allied bases are on high alert, and regional powers are carefully choosing sides. This is not just another military exercise, it comes amid escalating nuclear tensions, recent airstrikes on Iranian facilities, and growing fears of a wider conflict that could reshape global security and energy markets. So what exactly is happening behind the scenes? Are these drills meant to deter Iran, or are they a sign that a major confrontation is approaching? Today we break down the facts, the military moves, and what could come next. While military forces on both sides remain on high alert, diplomatic efforts continue quietly in the background. U.S. officials have publicly stated that Washington is still open to communication with Tehran if Iran is willing to engage in serious discussions. American leaders emphasize that their goal is not war, but stability and security in the region. However, they also stress that the United States will not hesitate to respond if its forces or allies are threatened. This careful balance between diplomacy and deterrence reflects years of complex relations between the two countries. Behind closed doors, regional mediators such as Oman and other neutral parties are believed to be working to reduce tensions. These behind-the-scenes efforts have historically played a role in preventing direct confrontation, even during periods of extreme hostility. Yet trust between Washington and Tehran remains extremely low. Iranian leaders accuse the United States of using diplomacy as a cover for pressure and military intimidation. They argue that sanctions and troop deployments prove that Washington's real goal is to weaken Iran, not negotiate fairly. This mistrust makes any potential talks fragile and uncertain. Meanwhile, Iran continues to strengthen its military posture. Reports indicate that Tehran has expanded coastal defenses, increased drone production, and enhanced missile readiness across strategic locations. Iran's military doctrine focuses heavily on asymmetric warfare. Instead of matching the United States plane for plane or ship for ship, Iran relies on smaller, faster, and cheaper weapon systems. These include swarm tactics using fast boats, long-range missiles, cyber operations, and allied militia groups across the region. In past conflicts, Iran has demonstrated its ability to strike U.S. targets indirectly through allied groups in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. This network of influence allows Tehran to apply pressure without direct confrontation, making any conflict far more complex. If tensions escalate, experts warn that retaliation would not be limited to one battlefield. It could involve attacks on U.S. bases, shipping lanes, and allied territories across multiple countries. This possibility is one of the main reasons global leaders are urging restraint. The humanitarian consequences of such a conflict could be devastating. Millions of civilians across the Middle East already live in fragile conditions due to years of war, economic hardship, and political instability. Another large-scale conflict could displace countless families, overwhelm healthcare systems, and create long-term suffering. Human rights organizations have repeatedly warned that civilians would bear the brunt of any military escalation. In Iran, everyday citizens are already struggling with rising prices, unemployment, and shortages of basic goods due to sanctions and economic mismanagement. War would only deepen these hardships. In neighboring countries, communities that rely on trade, tourism, and oil revenues would face serious economic shocks. Air travel, shipping, and foreign investment could all be disrupted. This interconnected reality highlights why tensions between the United States and Iran are not just a regional issue, but a global concern. Energy security, international trade, and political stability are all at stake. Military experts continue to analyze the scale and nature of the U.S. drills. Some view them as a strong deterrent designed to prevent Iran from taking aggressive actions. By demonstrating rapid deployment capabilities and coordinated operations, The United States sends a message that it can respond quickly to any threat. Others worry that such displays of force increase the risk of accidental escalation. With so many military assets operating in close proximity, a small incident, such as a drone encounter, a missile test, or a naval confrontation, could spiral out of control. History offers many examples where conflicts began not by intention, but by miscalculation. The current standoff shares similarities with past Cold War confrontations, where rival powers constantly tested each other's limits without crossing into open war. But unlike the Cold War, today's Middle East involves multiple actors, militias, and unstable political environments. This makes the situation far more unpredictable. International observers also point out the role of domestic politics in shaping decisions on both sides. In the United States, political leaders face pressure to appear strong on national security, especially during periods of global instability. In Iran, leaders are under pressure to maintain authority amid internal unrest. Both governments must balance public expectations with strategic realities. Strong rhetoric often plays well with domestic audiences, but can limit room for compromise. Every statement warning of war raises expectations and hardens positions. This is why analysts caution that language itself can become a dangerous tool. Despite all these risks, many experts still believe that neither side truly wants full-scale war. The costs would be enormous, militarily, economically, and politically. Instead, both Washington and Tehran may be attempting to position themselves for advantage in negotiations. Military pressure serves as leverage. Each side hopes the other will blink first. Yet this strategy is inherently risky. As forces remain mobilized, the margin for error shrinks. One wrong move could trigger consequences neither side intended. For global audiences watching from Europe and North America, the unfolding events offer a stark reminder of how fragile international stability can be. Decisions made in distant capitals can influence fuel prices, economic conditions, and security far beyond the Middle East. Governments across Europe are closely monitoring the situation, particularly due to dependence on energy supplies and concerns over refugee flows in case of conflict. Germany, the UK, and other European nations have previously played roles in diplomatic efforts related to Iran's nuclear program. They continue to advocate for dialogue and de-escalation. Canada has also expressed concern over rising tensions and supports diplomatic solutions. International cooperation remains one of the few tools capable of preventing escalation. Whether these efforts succeed remains uncertain. What is clear is that the current moment represents one of the most serious flashpoints in U.S.-Iran relations in recent years. Massive military drills, carrier deployments, strong warnings from Tehran, and ongoing internal pressures have created a highly volatile environment. Each day without escalation is a relief, but also a reminder of how quickly the situation could change. The coming weeks will be critical. If diplomatic channels gain traction, tensions could gradually ease. If not, further military posturing may continue. In the worst-case scenario, a single incident could ignite broader conflict. For now, the world watches closely. The Middle East stands once again at a crossroads between confrontation and compromise, and the actions taken in this tense standoff will shape regional and global security for years to come. Tensions in the Middle East are once again reaching a critical boiling point. The United States Air Force has launched massive strike readiness drills across the region, sending a clear message of military preparedness, while Iran warns that any attack on its territory will be treated as an all-out war. U.S. aircraft carriers are moving into strategic positions. Allied bases are on high alert, and regional powers are carefully choosing sides. This is not just another military exercise. It comes amid escalating nuclear tensions, recent airstrikes on Iranian facilities, and growing fears of a wider conflict that could reshape global security and energy markets. So what exactly is happening behind the scenes? Are these drills meant to deter Iran, or are they a sign that a major confrontation is approaching? Today, we break down the facts, the military moves, and what could come next. As the United States continues its massive military drills and Iran maintains its highest level of alert, The world is now entering a critical phase. The coming days and weeks will reveal whether these moves are simply a show of strength meant to deter conflict, or the early stages of a much larger confrontation. Diplomatic channels remain open, but trust is fragile. Military forces remain positioned across the Middle East, and tensions are high on both sides. History shows that moments like this can either lead to negotiation and stability or spiral into conflict through miscalculation. What happens next will depend on decisions made behind closed doors in Washington, Tehran, and other global capitals. Will leaders step back from the edge and choose dialogue, or will pressure and power politics push the region closer to war? Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe these U.S. strike drills are purely defensive, or a preparation for real conflict? Do you think Iran will respond militarily if tensions rise further? And most importantly, do you see diplomacy winning, or war becoming inevitable? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown informative, make sure to like the video and subscribe for the latest global news updates. Your opinion matters, and we'll continue bringing you the facts as this situation unfolds. Tensions in the Middle East are once again reaching a critical boiling point. The United States Air Force has launched massive strike readiness drills across the region, sending a clear message of military preparedness, while Iran warns that any attack on its territory will be treated as an all-out war. U.S. aircraft carriers are moving into strategic positions, Allied bases are on high alert, and regional powers are carefully choosing sides. This is not just another military exercise, it comes amid escalating nuclear tensions, recent airstrikes on Iranian facilities, and growing fears of a wider conflict that could reshape global security and energy markets. So what exactly is happening behind the scenes? Are these drills meant to deter Iran, or are they a sign that a major confrontation is approaching? Today, we break down the facts, the military moves, and what could come next.